Hello, everybody. Welcome to the JPS Football Preview Show. We're doing what? We're doing the NFC West. Hitting the left coast. Let's jump right into it, man. I think this is one of the funnest divisions to watch. Most fun. I taught English. It's fine. I want to talk about the team that all the media seems to be loving. I'm seeing this, and it kind of came out of left field for me. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers, runners up in 2019, was it? The 2020 Super Bowl, 2019 season?
2019 season.
Yeah. People are predicting a strong comeback for them. What are your thoughts?
I like them this year. I do. I like them this year. In the event that Garoppolo gets hurt, I still think they could have sustained success at quarterback with Trey Lance waiting. I do think the ultimate plan is to let Lance sit the entire year before making him the guy. So having said that, I think this is Jimmy Garoppolo's last cup of coffee in San Fran. His last completed season ended with a very close Super Bowl defeat. Garoppolo is a good quarterback when he's healthy, and I think he's the right quarterback for what they do.
Yeah.
I think Trey Sermon is going to challenge Raheem Mostert for carries. Ultimately, I think it's a committee. I do like Deebo Samuel this year to have a breakout season, and George Kittle is still a top 5, top 6 tight end. I think the Niners are going to surprise some people. Last year, they were decimated with injuries, but still managed to get the win over the Rams that nobody saw coming. They did beat the Cardinals? No, I take that back. They did. They lost the Cardinals week one. But the point I'm making is this is an ultra-competitive division based on physicality and, in a lot of cases, the run game. I think that fits into what San Francisco does. Their defense is still pretty damn good. I'm going to go maybe a surprise, not to me so much. I like the Niners to go 10-7 with a second-place finish in this division.
Pretty strong.
And I got them as one of my 3 wild cards.
Okay, so finishing second, squeaking into the wild card. How about the Rams? We mentioned it on our NFC North preview, but they were sort of blockbuster trade. We don't see too often. Quarterback for quarterback deal. Matthew Stafford gets a real football team around him.
Yeah.
How far does he take him? Because we all know about that Rams defense and Aaron Donald.
I still think he takes him to the second round, and it's not necessarily a knock on him. I just think that Tampa and Green Bay are still better. I do like this team. One thing I will say, to be fair, last year Aaron Donald didn't play in that Packer game. If he did, who knows? They did beat Tampa last year. They did match up well with Tampa. But there is some inconsistencies going back to last year with Goff that I think Stafford might be able to clean up. I do like the combination of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods as his 1-2 punch. And I also have a faith that Henderson, while not being the player that Cam Akers is, will do enough to hold it down in that relief running back role. If I was the Rams, this might not be the most popular decision. I would get on the phone and bring back Todd Gurley as a backup to help alleviate some of that pressure off of Henderson, and that might be something that happens. On defense, you've got arguably the best cornerback in Jalen Ramsey, and in my opinion, and in most people's opinions, the best defensive player in the whole league in Aaron Donald. I do think that they have an offense that when they have a 7 to 10 point lead is very hard to come back on, because that's when they let the Wolves on you with the defense. Stafford, as I already alluded to, is an upgrade over Goff. He does have experience playing at a high level, even though it was for a low-level, low-result team in Detroit. Like many before him, no success found there. I got them going 11-6, winning the West and having some hard-fought battles, 2 hard-fought battles with the 49ers, who, in my opinion, are going to be the second-best team in that division, as I already stated. But I think their ceiling is the second round, whether it be at the hands of Tampa or Green Bay. But I think the NFC is on a collision course for a rematch. Therefore, the West champions are going to die in round 2.
So the other of the 3-headed monster out there, let's talk about Seattle. There's a lot of – it seems like this happens every offseason. Russell Wilson, there's kind of whispers about, is he happy? Is he going to move on? It always kind of just goes away. What do you buy on this team? Russell Wilson's an amazing talent. Everybody knows that.
He's great. I think he does too much for them to win week to week. Chris Carson is the perfect back for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I do like him, and obviously the combination of DK Metcalf and drew a blank on the number 2 there for a quick moment.
Lockett.
Yeah, I was getting hungry thinking about this pizza that's on the way. But yeah, the Lockett-Metcalf combination is awesome. Metcalf being a top 5 receiver, whereas Lockett is more like a top 20 guy. Excellent combination, but I think there's 2 issues here. I think that defense is overrated. They did pay Jamal Adams, which was wise given how much capital they gave up for him. They had to keep him. Still think he's overpaid, but still a damn good football player. Bobby Wagner is the best tackling defensive player in all of the NFL. If that man runs into you, he's going to tackle you. You don't miss tackles. That's important. I don't think they have the physicality to hang during the course of the year to keep Wilson upright, as he's been one of the most knocked down and sacked quarterbacks over the last 2 years. I believe he's up there with Mr. Carson Wentz. To Wilson's credit, he's not made of glass. But I do not like them this year to make the playoffs. And I think this might actually be the beginning of the wheels moving with either somebody leaving, whether that be Russell Wilson or head coach Pete Carroll. They're going to choose the quarterback, obviously, over the very old head coach. I'm going to go 8-9. They're not going to be pathetic, but they are not a playoff team this year.
Interesting. So I do want to bring up something before, because Arizona could be in this very same conversation, and I want to go off of that prediction you made. If they don't make the playoffs, you think Pete Carroll could be done?
And I don't think it's because they missed the playoffs why Pete Carroll's done. I think it's because they got to value who's going to serve our team longer, the quarterback that's still in his prime, or the head coach that, quite frankly, he doesn't agree with all that much. He might not be as outspoken and as off the rails as Aaron Rodgers, but he's also not very happy with the philosophy that's going on over in Seattle. So I do believe that there might be a young a young head coach coming in to assist the quarterback in Russell Wilson. I might be overthinking it, but I think this potentially is Pete Carroll's last year, and he's old. He's done it all. He won at USC. He's taken this team to 2 Super Bowls, winning 1 after 2 failed attempts with New England and the New York Jets. I think this is the last year for Pete Carroll. I mean, he's old. So I think it might be time.
Let's talk about Arizona real quick, because I have a topic brewing up here that I think is going to be fun. But let's wrap up. This is, of course, the NFC West prediction. So what do you think about Arizona?
A lot of smoke, a lot of overrated stuff happening. I love Chandler Jones. I think he's phenomenal talent. But there's certain character guys that they lost that have been a part of their identity for a long time. Patrick Peterson and Larry Fitzgerald. They replaced Larry Fitzgerald with A.J. Green, who I think is a great guy, one of the best guys you ever listen to on interviews.
He could be one of our comeback players.
I would like that, because I really like him as a person. I think he's a great guy, but I don't necessarily have the most positive outlook for his season. DeAndre Hopkins is a beast, but he's going to need a contribution from either Christian Kirk or A.J. Green or both. Kyler Murray, while a phenomenal talent, and I think his peak was that Hail Murray upset against the Buffalo Bills, I'm still not sold on him to do it for a full season. Their running game is – I'm still a little skeptical there. They're going with Chase Edmonds. They're going with James Conner. Both guys are a little injury prone. The O-line, not great. Their defense has players. I mean, the big, addition was J.J. Watt. But J.J. Watt has had a very hard time staying healthy. And when I think about that division that they're in, and I think about the competition in that division, I don't even know if it's a step back or it's just a rough year, but I think they're going to go 7-10, and they're going to be on the underachieving end of what people thought is a playoff team, because last year they were on the cusp. I think this year they're kind of on the cusp, but they have a rough December, and I don't have them in the playoffs.
So forgive me for lack of attribution here, but I was reading a take on this team, and given the speed at which quarterbacks are moved on from and coaches in this current league. And
especially with this team with Rosen.
Absolutely. We've spoken. They kind of set the bar for how quick you move on and rebuild and say, no, this isn't working. Let's go. So I wonder, do you think, is it similar to Seattle? Do we take this season and say, this is disappointing, we need to make a change? Is it the coach or the QB?
It's not the QB.
From an organizational standpoint, do you back the coach whose system has been very much his selling point? and say, no, you've had enough time. Let's find someone else to nurture.
Well, that's the thing. They obviously believe that Murray's their guy, as a lot of fantasy experts believe as well, just football people. They're not going to bail on the QB because the QB, I'll put it this way, from like the young stuff, you give him how many years? He's still young. He's a lot closer to Lamar and being safe than, say, a Daniel Jones is safe. Well, you know what I mean? And they're kind of came in the league at the same time, more or less. So that's a good to be like, okay, he's here even though he's not arrived all the way, whereas this guy has really got to prove himself. And, oddly enough, and this is another point to make, is that the Jones has already gone through, 3 coaches in 3 years, if you go back to the Duke?
There it is. I knew we could get a Giants reference in here.
I was just looking for a comparable.
No, you're right.
But a comparable example of, because we always have these talks about how patient is too patient when these kids you got more of the Mahomes expectations now, and the Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Yeah, kids. These quarterbacks are getting a year, maybe 2 max before teams are saying,
Murray's
all right.
like in the middle of that.
And so I wonder, you got to say, Kyler Murray, phenomenal athlete, amazing player in college, obviously.
Undersized.
NFL, he's had some flashes. Mm-hmm. So you got to wonder, does the organization back this player or the coach? Knowing that Murray is thought of pretty highly, I'm just envisioning, this is what I want to talk to you about, the QB carousel Armageddon we could see next offseason. Aaron Rodgers, potentially Russell Wilson if the divorce goes that way.
And you'll get the 4th quarterback in as many years.
Jimmy G will be on the market.
Dimes might be
Daniel Jones could be on the market. Tua could get moved. We'll get to them too.
Watson might still end up in Miami.
Deshaun Watson will likely be
in
moved.
Philly.
So we could have more marquee quarterback names on the move next offseason pending some of these results.
They're not going to side with the coach in this one. I think that the investment in Murray, and already that they turned it around after such a high draft pick with Josh Rosen, this time they're going to invest in the QB because, to your point, they've already invested in the coach. And the reason why it's opposite with, like I said, Danny Dimes, if you don't produce, is because they've already sided with the quarterback, whether it be Eli or Dimes, over 2 coaching stints.
But it's interesting just in that I don't think there's any other division where we could say every team has a question mark about who their quarterback should be next year, depending how the season shakes out. And I know you could always say that, but these aren't no names.
No.
Jimmy G was a big name move when it happened. And
Jimmy G, if a couple of things go differently, was very close to pushing out Tom Brady.
Matt Stafford and Jared Goff trade was one of the bigger deals of the summer. Russell Wilson's one of the faces of the league, and Kyler Murray is one of the young guns. And yet all 4 of these quarterbacks could have question marks about their status.
And that division has already proven that you got a chair that moves quickly, because Jared Goff played in a Super Bowl not long before Jimmy Garoppolo did. They both lost their Super Bowls.
3 seasons instead of 2.
So Garoppolo might be on the way out. Stafford is safe for now because he just took over. But now you got the conversation. Is it Murray or the head coach? I say it's Murray. Russ might be leaving on his Aaron Rodgers shit. So we'll see how this plays.
It'll be interesting. Again, one of my favorite divisions to watch. So we'll be watching that. Thank you all for listening. Please check out our other division previews. Give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, whichever socials you like. And we'll talk to you next time.
Pete Carroll's last year, Russ stays.
Adios.